sorry, we're changing focus. We're actually giving money to developers.
Yeah.
Putting it in the hands of
Private
people that actually do the development.
Connection, it says.
not municipalities.
It's on number 3.
They're getting,
But at least
It's the
the
only time I actually
NSF,
heard booing coming from this.
yeah.
NSFM and them are pushing back hard too. FCM and, have you seen all the emails that are coming? They're
We are
pushing
Um,
back.
you saw both Nevin and Sean can't come, right? Okay.
We'll call this meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee to order. Roll call. Additions, deletions, and/or the approval of the agenda.
Nevin's not here, correct. Sent his
All
regrets.
present except for Nevin.
Okay.
Okay, I'll move to accept the agenda as circulated.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried. Declarations of conflict of interest. Hearing none. Approval of the minutes of March 19th, 2025.
I'll move to approve the minutes as circulated for March 19th, 2025.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Planning Development Report.
Tabled
Tabled.
until next meeting.
Okay, so that one is going to be tabled. There was
That's-
question
I-
over
if-
one part of one.
If we slow down for a second and I have a chance to write them.
It's a good reason not to have a report.
It is a good reason.
Yes. All right, moving on. 1921 Rundle Street property disposal.
Right, so, I think everybody got, a document, delivered to them a number of days ago, regarding 1921 Rundle's Lane. So it is a, town-owned property. There has been, some interest in acquiring it. And so, staff have, sought and received a market value assessment for the property. I believe a survey was supposed to be completed today. I haven't heard from the surveyor, but I will tomorrow. So I believe a survey will be completed. And that, we've circulated this to department heads in the town. There is no known municipal use for it. So we think that it's, it makes sense to dispose of it, and the staff recommendation would be that, as in other properties that the town has disposed of, that there be a condition of sale, that there be that the property be used for housing purposes, a dwelling purpose, and that there be a dwelling put on that property within 24 months of the sale occurring. And so what we would do, of course, is dispose of it in a public way using our public land disposal policy, and we would go out to a realty firm and ask them to advertise it so that anybody anywhere, if they were interested in the property, could come to, purchase it and build a dwelling on the property. Happy to answer any questions, council, or planning committee, I mean.
Just as a note on this, that lot, if it is 10,000 square feet, is big enough to easily house 4 units, as opposed to a dwelling.
Mr. Chair, or CAO, we're through Mr. I'll try this again. Chair. The method in which we'll dispose of, has that been decided, if it would be through,
Yeah,
you said realty, so I guess we're not going to do a single source with this
No,
one. Okay.
right, that's right. Yeah, so it would be, I think that the approach that council has taken in the past is to put it out on the property so that it's publicly available. Anybody who's interested in it can purchase it and, or, make an offer. And, and hopefully competition equals a better price for the town. But, frankly, it's not about the sale of the property. It's about infill development to get more taxpayers on already existing services. So, you know, there is a nice street in front of this property. There is water and sewer immediately available. So having it sit empty, when there seems to be some interest in it, it makes perfect sense to dispose of it and require that the purchaser build on it within 24 months.
So we require a motion from planning advisory to recommend to
Yeah,
council?
so that would be the idea would be to have PAC make a recommendation to council to proceed with disposal if that's.
I so move.
I'll second that.
The motion was moved and seconded. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Review of the draft property acquisition policy.
If you don't mind, Chair, I'll just continue.
Sure.
Westville has long had a property disposal policy, and we just spoke about it just now. It's got a number of options for how we dispose of it. The simplest, cheapest, most transparent, of course, is to put it on the market through a real estate organization. What Westville has never, to my knowledge, had is a property acquisition approach. And so the document that you have in front of you is the first draft, and so I'm not asking you to approve it really at this point. It's take a look at it, ask questions, and this would be the start of a process of turning it into a policy. So my recommendation would be that we have a discussion today about the goods, bads, and perhaps needed changes to the draft that you have, and then in the fullness of time, bring that forward for review and approval or whatever by council at some future date. But it really is about starting the discussion, and I guess it struck me that you know, Westville has experienced literally decades of negative growth, right? You know, -1, -2, -3% negative growth over the last number of decades. You know, last year, Mr. Day signed 20 building, there were 20 building permits issued last year, more than in the previous decade. If all that is currently on our kind of hoped for books pan out, it should be 40 or more units this year. And so in that kind of environment, it's important for towns to have the means to do stuff. And there may be pieces of property that are needed for development if in a growth situation, right? In a negative growth situation, you don't need to acquire property, right? Yeah. We were getting bits and pieces of property. You know, Rundle's Lane is an example of a piece of property that the town has acquired through essentially negative growth, right? Tax sales and those sorts of things. So when you've turned the page a bit, then you need to provide yourselves with the tools to be able to help facilitate and direct development. And the acquisition of important or strategic pieces of property is an important way. So this is an attempt to kind of put down, not for today, but for tomorrow or next year or 3 years from now or 10 years from now, a process by which the town can, in a transparent way, go about acquiring property. Happy to answer any questions.
No questions?
Makes sense.
I think it's logical to have the complementary policy. You know, we can get rid of things, but we can't acquire things.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to me.
Hand in hand.
And some of that, Mr. Chair, some of that is governed by the act that we operate under, the MGA. does spell out certain conditions for municipalities, I'm assuming.
Yes, you know, what the MGA does is broadly give municipalities the power to acquire.
Right.
It does not set out the process by which you acquire.
Yes.
And what this attempts to do is set out that process. So take advantage of the liberty that the MGA has provided the municipality to acquire property, but set it out in a way that kind of operationalizes it so that, you know, not necessarily me, but the next CAO and the CAO after that understand how to proceed to acquire property. And so it sets out, you know, the kinds of things that you need, like a survey, like a legal review. Consider environmental issues if you think that there could be problems there. So that those things are at least thought about, and then when a recommendation comes to council, council can be confident that, you know, the various issues have been kind of thought through before it ends up at a decision point.
Makes sense. So from this point on,
Yeah,
once
so
again, we need a recommendation from planning advisory to send it to council?
To send it to council
For
for further
consideration and approval?
Correct.
I so move that as well.
I'll second that.
Motion moved and seconded. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Excellent.
Updates?
Updates. 24 Acadia, 24 unit on Acadia. I mean, I think Mr. Day, I think all we can say is that they are proceeding. Services are starting to go in. Maybe you want to make a few comments.
So there really are just two, I guess, updates on this. One is that they asked if they could wiggle the road a little bit to the side on the S-bend that you may recall when they come in the driveway, the long lane leading in. There was an immediate kind of an S-bend, and they wanted to make that a little bit more extreme because it allowed them to avoid a low area in the back, which would be a challenge because of the configuration of those buildings. And so we passed that around everyone. Fire had no issue with it. Public Works had no issue with it. And I just asked that, you know, when they put this forward, that when we get as-built drawings, that shows the new configuration so we can have that for our files. So that's one thing. The other bit of business we've had with them is that for ease of constructibility, and I think it's a great option, they've decided to go underground with the power. So the site will be a lot less cluttered as a consequence. And, you know, I think that we're going to see a lot more of that going forward just because of ice storms and these sorts of things causing damage. So I'm very excited about that. I think it's going to make a much better development.
Shaw, Drummond, Compact Homes. I think Mr. Day and I had a virtual meeting with folks from Shaw last week, I guess it was. So there's still some discussions going on about the intersection at Queen and Drummond Road and its orientation and the impact that has on that particular development. It's possible that Shaw, as a short-term answer to that issue, is thinking about adding an additional lot, so an 11-lot development instead of a 10-lot development at the other end, so away from the intersection so that they can proceed with 10 and
Move everything up.
that would leave then the one lot at the end here for a later date. So it kind of avoids, in the short term, some costs that the town and Shaw had agreed to share around the realignment of that intersection. And so we're just waiting now for the response, I guess, or for Shaw to come back with a realignment. So it means they may have to purchase a little bit more land from Pioneer Coal. Our engineer and their engineer, the Shaw engineer and our municipal engineer were connecting earlier this week. So I haven't got a report on how that happened, but I assume it happened, and all is proceeding apace, I assume, because I haven't had a call saying, it's not going well.
Right.
Can I ask, building permits, have they been, building permits requested, issued? And what was their, I can't recall, were they going to ask for 10 building, well, now 11 permits as opposed to one at a time, sort of thing?
Well, I mean, that would depend on what Mr. Weirs is able to offer with respect to
Yeah,
assistance.
my understanding, Mr. Mayor, is that that is what they will do, that they will seek all the building permits at a time, and that is being, positively influenced by our municipal infrastructure incentive program.
Yes.
Right, which has a 10 unit threshold. Over 10 units, we're
Right,
able to
right.
provide some incentive.
Right.
And, Shaw has indicated on multiple occasions that that is attractive to them. And so I assume that that's what they will be doing.
Well, 11 is better than 10.
And 11
Sure.
is always better than 10.
Thankfully, that intersection presented that little issue, so, so we have to go to 11 instead of 10 to make it work in timely fashion.
I think there is a learning from all of this, though. Like, we've seen that they are very sensitive to the cost of construction and
Right.
development currently, and that's, in an instance where there's already a road there. They're not building a road. And it does speak to the kinds of development that can get built in today's economic environment. You need quite a bit of density in order to justify the cost of road and service installation. So
Right.
we need to be
Yeah, one-offs are
mindful of
kind
that.
One-offs are kind of costly, and
They are. And I mean, infill is great because the services and the roads are there, so we definitely need to focus on that, particularly where we have a lot of developed roads with services. But if you're looking at larger developments, low-density development just isn't viable.
Mr. Chair, I guess just my comment / question would be, obviously, you touched on the engineering. I believe it was WSP that they had engaged with the sight lines, so I'm assuming that the addition of the 11th driveway wouldn't have been contemplated kind of in that initial, so to make sure that everything is still safe for that, that hill and turn and curve and all the
Yeah.
stuff that goes with it.
Yeah, and that was actually discussed, so the engineers are aware of what has to happen to provide that sight line, and that's part of the new thinking that's happening since last week, since the meeting occurred late last week.
Main Street incentive?
Main Street. So really that relates to the pop-up business on the town lot, sort of across from Tim Hortons, thank you. So that is proceeding. The contract has been let for the pop-up buildings. They're in process now. Contract, there was an RFP let for, well, not RFP, but we went out for quotes for the electrical work that needs to be associated with that. So that's trenching and laying of lines and those sorts of things. Those came back a week or so ago, so the successful contractor has been identified, notified. So in the next little while, we'll be making some moves on that front. If I should have just continued, Mr.
Sure.
Chair?
Yep.
Riverview Homes, as far as I know, we're proceeding, and maybe Mr. Day may have more up-to-date information on that front as I know, but any of you who have driven down Temperance Street will see that they've mowed off the brush in preparation for the 3 duplexes, 6 units that would go in there. And I know that Riverview Homes is thinking about, again, cognizant of the threshold for our incentive program. They're thinking through what that would mean for them and how they would take advantage of that incentive. So I do anticipate in the fairly near future that they will be coming back looking for a couple of more units, if they use duplexes, or 4 more units if they use single dwellings, in order to get themselves up to the threshold. But again, that's really over to Riverview Homes to decide.
So on that one, I can't recall if I may have mentioned it at our last meeting, but we were looking at some of those additional development opportunities on that site, and they had asked me to review a particular layout, and I sent them back a pretty substantially revised layout that gave them opportunity to do more on the site in a way that better suited the nature of units that they were looking at, but also which allowed multiple phases. And so I think they're taking a look at that.
Mr. Chair, can I just very quickly ask the CAO, because you're referencing the incentive program we have, which is based on the monies that we received from the Housing Accelerator Fund. I know and it's coming in installments. Have we received actually the second year's installment?
Yeah, thank you. I should have started there probably. Yeah, so we did Westville did receive about a week or so ago, well, I guess 16 days ago, on March 30th or April 1st, we received our second installment of the 4 that we are anticipating getting. And so we're able to proceed with that as building permits are requested.
And we should remind folks that what we're talking about is an incentive of $2,500 per door for any development that has 10 doors or more.
Correct.
Attached to it. So
Yeah.
it's a great incentive.
The other piece of work that's in process now is I have our municipal solicitor reviewing the proposed agreement between the town and any developer.
Right.
And so that's in process, and I'm expecting to get something back from them very shortly so that we can then proceed to speak with, for example, the developer on Acadia Street, who has received building permits.
And it's conditioned, that agreement will have in it that it's conditioned on the fund being available, that it hasn't been spent, and that it's continuing.
Correct,
to
yeah.
go.
So it's both time limited and fund limited. And the other thing is that as council knows, and I think PAC knows, the incentive is distributed in 2 tranches. 50% upon signing or the issuance of building permits, and 50% at the substantially complete and occupancy permit stage. So that, it just makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I can continue, if you don't mind,
Highland Consolidated.
to the Highland Consolidated School.
Yep.
So today is 6. 6 days ago, council approved both the rezoning of that 21-acre site and the development agreement between the town and the Nova Scotia Cooperatives Council. So we are now well and truly in the appeal period that follows those sorts of things. So that work is underway. And in the meantime, with regard to that site, I believe, I didn't see them, but I was under the impression that surveyors were on the site today, if not today, tomorrow, setting up the permanent pins in order to demarcate the property that would be transferred upon the signing of agreements from the town to NCSS to help. And they need that. They need to have custody and control of the land in order to liberate the funding and financing that they have for the site. Earlier this week, I did share draft agreements of purchase and sale and a option to purchase agreement with NCSS. And so we're just in that process of kind of working through those documents. I believe as of the result of seeing some email traffic today that those documents will be signed shortly, and that will be another step in the process. There is, you know, some considerable work that needs to be done yet. And some of it is kind of due diligence work that NCSS will want to do to comfort themselves that, you know, even though they've had an engineer look at it once, maybe twice already, they're now getting into the, okay, this is real now. So they will do a more detailed environmental assessment, a site assessment, to comfort themselves that should there be asbestos in the building somewhere, and it's pretty likely that they will find some, that it isn't so much that they have to, that it throws the economics of the thing out of whack. And they'll want to do the same about the condition of the condition of the building itself. And, you know, I have a lot of confidence that that will proceed smoothly, but it is, you know, something that they should do for their own protection, I guess. And so I think that will proceed relatively quickly. I know that contracts have been let for both of those pieces of work, and I'm expecting somebody to give me a call before too long saying, can we have access to the site in order to undertake both the site environmental assessment and the building condition thing. And then in addition to that, you know, NCSS has some detailed costing that they have to get their heads around, some engineering and those sorts of things. So even though the development agreement is in place and has been approved, and even if we were to sign the agreement of purchase and sale tomorrow, there will still be a number of weeks, potentially months, of no activity happening there, even though it won't be seen as somebody going in and starting to do demolition and clean out the thing. That's going to take a little bit of time. So I know that there's a lot of interest in town and people thinking, yikes, that's great, and I'm looking forward to putting my hand up to try and get one of the 65 or more units. But there's a process that they have to go through and we have to go through, and so I'm confident we'll get there. It just takes a bit of time.
Mr. Chair, the other comment you just mentioned, Mr. Mears, that the survey is being done, if not today, then tomorrow or next few days. And I'm particularly with regard to that lot out front along bordering on South Main Street. So so after the survey is done, we'll have actual markers in there delineating exactly what that lot is, how big it is. And my suggestion is that as soon as that is done, that we get the word out. I'll put it out right now. We'll be looking for developers to come forward interested in that piece of property to do some developing. We'll have conditions around that development, obviously, what we'll be looking for and hoping for. One of them is that any development, as we talked about previously when we were talking about the rezoning and we're talking about the school project, that it be in conformity with the existing homes that are situated on South Main Street, so that they will not be, you know, something that's not compatible to the existing dwellings there. But on those conditions, we want to get that word out. So I'm putting it out now, John, right now, that we will be looking for development on that piece of property. And I think, you know, further suggestion that at some point, once we've got this done, we should have some signage up there as soon as possible, indicating that this is ready, this lot is available for development, you know.
Okay. Anything further?
That's it for me.
Okay. Delegations on issues or discussion arising from business or other business?
Only question I have is whether or not we've heard anything back from New Glasgow regarding water.
No.
Okay.
That was simple. Can we have a motion to move in camera?
I'll move to go in camera.
I'll second it.
Motion moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? Motion carried.
We should mention that we will be going into a special council meeting after we conclude the in-camera session here, which I don't anticipate to be very long.
That's right.
Mr. Weirs, it'll be very brief, I think.
Correct.
Which means you have time to get
I'm saying that for the benefit of the people that are here currently in the room as our audience.
You don't have to go
citizens.
far.